So my name is Kristen Atchley. I'm currently the Student Advocacy Coordinator at Norman High School. I have experienced extreme trauma within the school setting because I was the school counselor at Plaza Towers Elementary on May 20th, 2013 when the tornado destroyed our school. So the afternoon of May 19th was one of those two-day situations where severe weather will happen in the state of Oklahoma for 2 consecutive days. So you take note of it the first day, and so my husband and I were very focused on the weather, looking to see if we should stay home because our church was meeting in the evening, and we did make the decision to stay home thinking we don't want to drive in severe weather, and so we were very mindful of what was going on. So the next day, of course, they're reporting similar things closer to us, but again, you kind of go, yeah, okay, it's Oklahoma. Everybody has to be on high alert, but the probability of it actually happening is always low. The weather that morning seemed fine, like maybe a little overcast, but nothing. It was not raining, it was not storming in the morning. And I relied a lot on our 2 secretaries to kind of guide my weather. Like I would check the weather to know, because I did outside duty in the afternoon, what to wear, but more of like, I'll be outside for 10 minutes. What should I wear? Should I wear, a coat or not, kind of thing. But actually paying attention to if it was raining during recess and we'd have indoor, outdoor, we really relied on our secretaries to help us with that because they were very mindful of weather, close to their computer at all times, could check on it. I was not worried at all about the weather. The weather never alarmed me up to this day. It was not a concern of mine. Somebody mentioned, the weather could get severe while we're still in school. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that's going to be awful for putting kids in the car. Because maybe a couple months before that, we had just had a downpour day where, at Car Rider Line, we were all drenched and kids were falling and it was just a mess. So I was kind of thinking like that. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's going to be a mess. But hopefully a lot of parents will come get their kids early so there won't be a ton that have to get wet and deal with that. So I knew that the weather was going to be starting while we were still in school. However, I didn't know the severity of the tornado risk at that point. And I don't know that I ever really did know the severity risk during that day. I went back to look afterwards, but not during that day. So at 1:45, I noticed that a parent was needing a little bit more help, and I was going to help them get the resources they needed with their situation. And, as a counselor, I brought her into my office and I helped her make contact with a few local resources that could assist her. And that took us just under an hour, maybe right at an hour, to work through a few of the things. And when I came out of my office, I realized there was a very long line of parents. And I immediately just went to one of the secretaries and said, how can I help? And then Miss Simpson quickly came out of her office too as she finished up an interview for a teacher for the following year. And we both realized that all 4 of us needed to help assist with the parents and checking out students. It was very normal for parents to check out their kids on a severe weather day for a couple reasons. People don't want to get hail damage, they don't want their kids out in the rain and things like that. Checking kids out does not seem atypical for any school system when the weather changes. This didn't feel different yet. I believe at that point the district kind of decided, because so many parents were coming so quickly, we weren't following the exact same procedures as normal with everybody checking out, showing IDs. We were going off of getting kids to safety quickly. And that's when I realized this is different. We've never just changed things to get kids out of the building as quickly as we were. So Ms. Simpson and we stayed towards the front door, and the way Plaza was, you had 2 main hallways, and then you had the front door system in our main building. And so we would both check these hallways and check those front hallways and help parents get to their kids and get them quickly and it was about that time, so about 3-ish, we heard the sirens, the tornado sirens. And so Ms. Simpson, came over the intercom system and said, we need to go into tornado precautions. Everybody take their procedures now. So the tornado precautions at the time were for students to walk to this safe area, which every classroom was to walk out into the hallway in the main building and in our additional building, which we called the 2nd and 3rd grade building. They were to walk outside of their classroom into the hallway and to put their heads down against the wall and put their hands over their heads. We had practiced several times, and actually this year, that year I specifically remember practicing. Ms. Simpson and I would tag team. As we would get in procedures, we would check, and you just make sure there wasn't anything you need to adjust or reevaluate. And we talked about it afterwards, making sure, because we had added a classroom mid-year, that they had enough space. So we did an extra practice to make sure that additional 6th grade classroom had room in the hallway where they needed to be away from the glass area of the front of the school. Our kids and our staff had done the drills well every time, and Miss Simpson and I would walk along the hallways at this moment, about 3 o'clock, when everybody was in tornado precautions, and everybody was doing exactly what they were supposed to do. It's 15 minutes from when we had the sirens to when we've been told we were hit, which was about 3:15. So within those 15 minutes, walked the halls a couple times, and occasionally would walk back in the office to say any new updates. But we had parents coming in so quickly, and you had parents coming in and were bringing rain and wind and everything too, that we were also concerned about everybody's safety walking in and out of the building. So we're putting up caution cones and making sure they're going slowly and they're wiping their feet, because it's getting pretty dangerous in there in the front area. And so it was probably, my best guess would be about 3:10. I walked back in the main office where secretaries were watching the live feed on their computers. And I looked over at one computer, and she was watching Mike Morgan. And Mike Morgan was talking about, going down 149th, Oklahoma City. That's an Oklahoma City street, going down 149th. And Plaza sits between, what would Oklahoma City streets be, 149th and 134th. So I thought, oh wow, that's coming down our line. My kids also, their babysitter was around 149th. And so I initially thought, oh my goodness, my kids and Wayland Bonds Elementary, and I was worried about that. And somebody quickly said, Wayland Bonds was not hit. And I thought, okay, good, we're fine. That means my kids are fine. And they said, but Moore is still in the direct path. And so sometimes when you hear Moore, you get confused about Oklahoma City Moore area. And so I was trying to pay attention to the details. Within a couple of minutes, they said that the Warren Theater was in the direct path. And so I knew we had to be in the direct path. And Mike Morgan then said, if you are not below ground, you will not survive this storm. And I became very frightened at that time, and I realized that it was coming, and I think we all at that point realized this was extremely severe. And Ms. Simpson, one of our secretaries, walked out to the parking lot, which was right in front of our school, which would be the north side of our school, and they saw it and ran back in and said, it's here. And so Ms. Simpson got on the intercom and said, take final precautions, it's here. And so we gathered the closest to our computers and our phones in our office, because we were still in contact with the district and everything that we could be with the live feed to know we were doing all that we could. And so we gathered in the bathroom very quickly. There were 5 of us women in a 1-stall restroom. And the precaution is to cover your head, but when you're sitting in a 1-stall bathroom, you can't do that, so you have to sit straight up. So we just sat straight up and waited until it came, and Miss Simpson she's like very calm, and so she just walked us through it. I can hear the wind picking up, I can now hear the roof being torn off, and my ears started to pop, and so I knew there was pressure. And then when the roof was taken off, something hit me in the head. And it just landed on me right about here. And so I dropped my head, and my phone was sitting in my lap. And so I just picked up the phone and called my husband. And I was able to get through, and I was able to talk to him. And then I lost contact with him. And so then I tried my mom, who didn't answer because I thought she was at work. And I didn't know if they were paying attention or not, so I thought I'd tell them. And when I couldn't get a hold of her, I called my dad, and I got through to him. And so I let him know that we had been hit. And then I lost contact with him. And it was just a couple minutes, and then it was over. I think where we always have to continue to learn and grow is what to do after it actually happens. And the follow through is tragic. I think the biggest thing is how important it is to prepare for it, and to prepare, and hope it never happens. And the likelihood of something awful and tragic happening might be low. But I never in a million years thought this would happen to me and to my school. Everybody is at risk for something happening, and so the importance of planning is huge.